Welcome to Hush. Today we're going to be talking about my story and mostly in regards to the last year of my life. We're coming up on April 2023 where it seemingly all began, but it was really just the culmination of something that had been brewing for a long time. I may have some pauses during this video. I may say some ums. I don't know. But one thing that's really important to me is that I'm not cutting a lot out. I'm not editing. I'm just telling this story authentically. It's going to be in a 2 or 3 part series, I think, by the end of it, because it's too heavy to talk about all at once. It's a lot of information to take in all at once, and it just seems to make sense that that's probably how this is going to go. This story actually fits very well with this channel, talking about all the things that people tell you not to talk about, right? So, have any of you ever been abused? Known a narcissist, a coercive controller, a sociopath, a psychopath? I don't know. We have terms for everybody and anybody, but have you ever had serious interactions with one? A boss, your best friend, a significant other, spouse, parent, brother or sister, right? Have you ever known somebody in depth to the core of what these people are truly about and really the reality of living within it? So I guess I'll just talk about now, where I'm at now. My lips are purple, if you can see, because I'm cold. I'm in my apartment. It's April. It was just near 90 last week one day, and now it's 40 degrees out, and there's no heat on, so it's a little cold. I was getting ready. I took a jog and was getting ready to go out so I could do some work, and I was going to record some of my blogs to upload over the next couple days. And instead, I just felt inspired to start talking about this because it's been a long time coming. And it's fitting with the anniversary of all of the culmination. It's a culmination, but is it a culmination? I don't know. It's the big event that happened within the story, I will say. So here I am. It's my middle sons. For anyone that doesn't know, I do have 5 boys, age 4 to 13. My middle son is turning 9 today, and it's the first birthday with any of my boys that I'll ever miss. I feel a little emotional right now. I've been doing really good because I have big plans for him tomorrow, and I have big plans for him on Saturday, and I know that he's going to enjoy his birthday with me. And so it's okay, and it is what it is, and I can't change it. So I could self-destruct, be depressed, or I could live my life and work on my custody case. So that's the plan today. We have pre-trial coming up on May 11th for modification of orders. And we'll get to how things ended up how they are right now. Right now, we have 50-50 custody of our children, me and their father, and I am living next door to their father. He is in the family home with the children, and I am renting an apartment next door. It is what it is. I mean, it is, but it's also a lot more. I'm seeking a new place to live, something better, a place where I can truly create a peaceful environment, an environment of coming together as a family with me and my boys. This is where I'm at for now. This is remnants of the past still existing in the present, but no longer fitting my reality or my future moving forward. That's how I'll put it. Okay, so that's where I'm at today. Let's go back to childhood. I won't say too much about it because that's not what this video is about. But I was raised around narcissists / sociopaths. I don't know. It's not my place to label, and I didn't get to know everybody that I should have known that well in my life to even be able to say what I think they could be or what category to place them under. My mom and dad got divorced when I was just turning 1, so I don't have any memories of them together. I was always grateful for that because my dad wasn't involved or around, and he had his issues. My mom remarried when I was 6. She met my stepfather when I was 4. So most all my memories have my stepfather in it. I called him my dad. I didn't. I called him my stepfather, but I would say my parents. And if I talk about my parents, I'm talking about my mom and my stepfather, because that's just the way my life was. We didn't necessarily get along, though. Doesn't mean that it was this happy, wonderful parents, I don't really want to bash. My stepfather's not alive anymore. It's not really my place to sit here and bash my mom or my dad or my stepfather or anyone. It's not the intention, but it does set up the stage for why my life went in the directions it did, why I chose the father of my children that I did. It all adds up when I look back. My mom's emotionally avoidant. She's not physically intimate. There weren't kisses and hugs, and she didn't do my hair, and I didn't have that growing up. And I am born naturally, I believe, genetically somehow over nature versus nurture. By nature, I am very intimate. And I'm not talking about sexually, but just physically intimate. Like, I give my boys hugs as often as I can. I kiss them on the head. I rub their backs. I've always desired that. I couldn't wait to be a mom so that I could be affectionate towards my children and provide these little people. I always pictured myself with a girl, and I have 5 boys, so I'll just say these little people and provide them what I was missing. That was always my goal, to be able to give a child what I desired as a child. I don't think that that's been taken from me fully, and moving forward, I know that I'm more capable now than ever to provide that. Whew. But up until now, it's been really hard. Although I still am very affectionate. Every time I go pick up my 4-year-old from school, he runs to me, and I have to brace myself, especially if I'm wearing heels. I really have to lean down and get a stance, because he runs so fast into my arms that he knocks me over. And it's beautiful and amazing, and I get to be that for him, and I'm really grateful for that. The journey's been hard, but there's still so many bright spots, and there's so much from here on out to look forward to, that there's enough for me to be grateful for, that I can keep my focus there to keep me going and keep me through. So there wasn't much support as a child, and I grew up in one of those homes where it wasn't healthy. I will say, and I was the scapegoat, and this is why I love this channel, and that's why I called it Hush, because from a young age, I was the scapegoat. I was the one. I wanted to talk about it all. I wanted to say, hey, let's just love each other. Let's just do this. Why aren't we getting along? Why does my stepfather not speak to me in the same house for 2 weeks? I'm just a little child. The stress that caused was severe. I come home from school crying because there was an issue with other kids, and my mom says, well, I wouldn't want to be friends with somebody that acts like you. Because I was crying, because I was sensitive and emotional, and I cared about people. It was these good qualities in me. It's actually my gifts that I believe I was given as a human being that were twisted into something that made me someone that would never succeed and never be okay in life. My mom was so worried about me going to college. She's like, there's no way you can have a roommate and get along with people. And I loved my freshman year roommate. I got along great with the other kids in the dorm. I ended up backing away from them and not remaining friends because of my own insecurities that stemmed from having all these false beliefs. And if you're listening to this, I'm sure you can understand. Yours might be different, but we take on those little hooks from childhood, right? And somehow they infect the rest of our lives until we can face them and change those internal narratives. And I'm still working on changing some internal narratives. Some have definitely been changed, which is awesome and significant and has been miraculous in my life. But I still have more that I'm working on. And so that was one of those hooks, you know. I didn't remain friends with anyone for long periods of time because I never believed that anyone was going to stick around if they got to know me, right? And I know that a lot of you can relate to that one. Hopefully not all of you. And if you can't, then that's great. I'm really glad. If you can, I'm sorry, and it was all a lie. And again, changing those narratives and becoming who we choose to be today and not who the world told us we are. I write about that. If you've read or listened to any of my writings, you can sense that theme in there. And I think I've like specifically said that in one of my writings. But that's how I grew up. So when I entered college, it was amazing. I just started drinking and partying. I joined a sorority. I basically failed out of college first semester freshman year. My mom told me, if you don't get your grades up, we're not paying for any college. Not this one, not anyone. And I called college home because I was so desperate to escape my home that that was the only thing that I could cling to that wasn't my childhood home. So I called it home, and I was not going to lose my home. I was not going to lose that freedom. I was not going to lose that escape. And so I started getting straight A's, and I ended up with what was my grade point average? I don't know. I graduated with high honors from college. And I was able to do that while still partying and being wild. But I never got to a place where I was able to maintain long-term relationships with friends or boyfriends. I had an on again, off again relationship with somebody in college that we ended up being friends for quite a few years after college because we both moved to Boston, which was really great. You know, that was a longer term friendship of sorts. I do look back and I see that there was a place in my life, in my heart, where he was a friend. And it's so interesting because I just had a dream that he was in last night, which is weird because I don't know if I've ever dreamed about him before. And now he just came up as I'm talking here, but maybe that's why he came up. I don't know. I haven't talked to him since I was in like 25 years old, I don't think. It was probably about 25 or so. He's married with kids, and that's great. I really hope he's happy. But there was that, and that was pretty much my longest term relationship until I was 30 and I met my ex-husband who I was with. We were officially married up until January 20th of 2026. So it's pretty new. I did have some really wicked relationships in between. In my 20s, nothing very long lasting, but I did have a couple of relationships. One, a really beautiful soul. His name was Corey, and I met him and I didn't know that he was addicted to heroin. He supposedly wasn't using when I met him, but then started shortly after, again, relapsed. And I didn't know. I kind of found out. And he ended up dying of a heroin overdose while we were still together. So that happened. My ex used that one against me because when I first met him, I told him about Corey. I have a tattoo on me, so it's, necessary to explain why I have this tattoo on me. And so I told him early on. And then, there was a big theme early on in our relationship and marriage of like, oh, drug addicts are pieces of poop. And he didn't use the word poop. I don't like to swear. I will swear. I do swear. When I get fired up about something, whether angry or just like fired up, I actually will intentionally swear because I don't typically swear, and it makes such more of an impact that whoever I'm talking to that knows me well knows, like, okay, she's really serious or really fired up. But in general, I don't like to, even if I'm quoting somebody. I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable. I just don't like it. So I will say poop instead of the word that was actually used. But it was just, I don't know that that was authentic feeling or if it was just early on one of those ways to make me feel bad, to discount my pain and my past and anyone that I could have had an attachment or care for. And I'm pretty certain that was the intention, because now I see the coercive control. I see the history. I see how it all unfolded and what happened. But it was a horrific marriage. I was never happy. I never had a partner. I've still yet to this day experienced having a real partner in life where I always, if you know me, you know what example I'm about to use. I always talk about the kitchen table or a coffee table and how if I try and move the table by myself, it's really hard. I might not even be able to move it, or I struggle. I have to drag it. It's tough. But if I have somebody else in the house, I could just be like, hey, pick up this. Can you get the other end of the table? We just pick it up and move it, and bam, it's done. It's easy. It might be a little heavy, but it's you get it done. So having two people isn't just making things easier. It makes things significantly easier to function and do life. But you have to have two people both willing to evenly pick up their end of the table. And so often, a man will come and he'll be like, okay, let me pick up that table for you. And I'm like, no, I don't want somebody to pick up the table for me. And yet it appears like you're denying, somebody that wants to care for you, but it's because it's not healthy. No one person should be picking up that table. True health is when you're both equally picking up the table. So I explained my marriage is that not only was I picking up tables by myself with 5 children sitting on them, but I also had a grown man sitting on top of that table because he didn't pick up the other end and lift it. He sat down on it. I laugh. It's not funny. But that's the best explanation for how I felt in my experience. So the divorce finally came in 2023. I mean, there's a history, there's a timeline. So we got married in 2013. My oldest was 5 months old. He had an older son who was 6 at the time from his first marriage. In 2014, just a month after my second child was born, I filed for divorce and sought domestic violence help. Didn't end up going through with that due to multiple reasons. One being that he threatened to take the boys from me and get everything. And I knew that he could because his family would lie for him. I didn't know if his ex-wife would. Well, I knew that he was setting the stage with his ex-wife to say that I was so mean to his oldest son, which wasn't true. I would ask him to go wash his hands or brush his teeth, like normal stuff that if my children had a friend over, I would tell them to do. It just wasn't trying to parent him, but just if you have a child that you're caring for at the moment, you're going to ask them to do certain things. Like, like normal things, like, hey, go pick up that trash you just left on the floor, right? And that was twisted into me being mean and going after and attacking. And it, it was really a horrific experience because I really loved that boy. I really did. And he really loved me in the beginning too. When he was really young, I used to pick him up from kindergarten and he would run to me just like my own children do. He would run and give me a hug. And it was so special because I wasn't a mom and I desired so desperately to be one. And I wasn't trying to be his mom, but it just gave me a glimpse of that experience that I so deeply wanted and am grateful to have today, as I just explained about Eric. Whew. So, trying not to give too much detail because this would take a week to record because there's just so much. But I believed that it was possible that maybe even his ex-wife would be a witness for him. He was so kind to her. He was so patient and gentle on the phone with her. And I see now why he was. I really doubt he was that way with her prior to meeting me. But once he met me, it served him because it made her put her in a position where she could be jealous and think that, wow, look, he's really changed. He's really turned into this great guy. And then pull at her heartstrings and make her feel guilty and bad for having left him. And then on the other hand, it makes me jealous because he's there screaming and swearing in my face and turning over furniture, put his hands on me a few times early on. And there he is, always available for her, always talking kindly and gently to her. And so I see how that served him well to treat her good. Because at first it was very confusing. I was like, this man is not nice. Like, what is going on here? It also gave the impression that I was the problem. Because if everything was good with her, then that meant that there was something wrong with me, not with him. So that was just, there's a third way that it really was serving for him to be kind, and he didn't have to talk to her that often or interact with her that often. So it wasn't that much energy to exert to create that really beneficial situation for him. And so I've been able to see and recognize that now. So yeah, so I withdrew the divorce and I didn't go through with it. And I had a newborn. I was working full time at the time. I still didn't know how I was going to survive with 2 children on my own and work and do all of that. And so I was scared. But it was bad enough I was willing to try until he really, pushed the threats pretty hard, and I believed them. And if or once you hear what happened in 2024, you'll see that they were not empty threats. It was exactly what he planned to do if I were to leave him. So I withdrew the divorce. We ended up moving to Texas in 2016, and I ended up at a DV shelter with the 2 little ones. I had started going to church. He started going to church. The pastor told me I was changing. He felt guilty. I was working full time. So I made too much money to be available for housing or any services, but I didn't make enough money to pay for housing, food, daycare, and all of that. So I did not know how I was going to get out of this shelter because I was being denied for all the housing and all the assistance that all the other women were being given. And people were coming in and leaving before me, and I was still there, and the counselor didn't know how she was going to get me into any housing that I was going to be able to afford or reasonably live. There was one place that was like 2 hours away from my job, and with the price of daycare and all of that, I wouldn't have been able to work. And so now but I wasn't eligible for the free housing. So you just see, I don't need to give all the details, but it was just a situation that was really scary. I didn't know what was going to happen. And then here's this pastor telling me, oh, he feels so bad. He's really trying. He's really taking a look at himself. And it's just like, okay, I'm just going to go back. And I did. I went back. In 2017, we had moved back to Massachusetts, and there was someone that had filed a report to DCF on Warren for his violent, inappropriate spanking of Noah in public, which I would agree that it wasn't healthy, safe parenting. I am not against spanking. I know a lot of people are. This isn't a debate on spanking. I'm not against it, but the way that he would spank was, I believe, hands down, physically abusive. In 2018, I filed a restraining order, and I had a restraining order for me and my 3 older boys that were alive. And then I couldn't make it with 3 little ones. And there's a lot more to that story too. Another story for another day, maybe not for this channel. I guess we'll see. But I ended up letting him back in and revoking the restraining order. And then I became hyper-religious. So there's my hyper-religious story for anyone that listened to Sipping Reality. My podcast that I was doing last year will know about my hyper-religious phase. And that helped me to survive for a while until I had done so much and denied myself to an extreme extent that I was just left broken with fibro and vertigo and migraines. And I was so weak, I had to have my children help me up the stairs at night sometimes. Oh yeah, where was my husband? I don't know, work, out with other women. I don't know. I don't remember. I just remember needing my older children to help support me to get up the stairs at the end of the night, which is really sad and horrific that they had to do that. And so that's when I decided that it doesn't matter what happens, that I'm willing to face anything. I was willing to face homelessness. I was willing to face absolutely anything just to leave, because the one job I had left, I couldn't do anymore. I couldn't be the mom that I was and I desired so deeply, and that I had been for periods of time. And my kids needed at least one healthy, safe parent. So I did it. I faced all my fears and I didn't care. And the trauma bond broke. And I saw everything for what it was. And I was done. And I was done for quite a while before I actually stated that I wanted a divorce. And once I said that, that had already been decided 10 months prior that this was happening. It just took me that long to face it. I mean, out of fear from him. I was fearful of him. So I left, and I had my boys full time for an entire year. I didn't leave. He did end up leaving the home. He was leaving temporarily, but that was the only way that I could create the situation to be able to actually file for divorce and to have a place to live for me and my kids. So he was under the impression that it was a temporary thing, and it wasn't. I was done. I just didn't have any other way to survive or live, and all that matters was taking care of my children. So he moved out, and I had my kids full-time 7 nights a week for an entire year, and I didn't date, and I didn't want to. And I did a lot of healing, and that brought me to my writings. So in my reading of my journal blogs, and I am going to put them up on a site again. I need the time. I have this custody case coming up. I have some more priorities with that, but I do want to, sooner than later, get those journal blogs in writing up somewhere online again. For anyone that has read them or listened to them, and again, you can start listening on this channel because I'm slowly, day by day, uploading them all on here on the playlist journal blog. I talk about the trauma therapy that I did in November of 2024. And there's a little backstory, but yeah, I guess I have to explain that. So in May of 2023, he left the home. In May of 2024, I had finally filed divorce, and we went to court for the temporary orders during the divorce. It was our first mediation with probation to figure out how we were going to establish custody, all of that during the divorce process. And I was able to obtain full physical custody of the children at that time, with him having visitation Monday and Thursday nights and every other weekend. So that's how that went for another year. And then I waited on a wait list for that trauma therapy for a year, and there was so much healing. I started dating in May of 2024, and that was a wild experience, beautiful and amazing. I actually just text the first man that I dated after my marriage, happy birthday today. I still care and have respect for him. The three significant people that I've dated since my marriage, I consider them all friends, people I care about, people that I still talk to here or there, very healthy, like avoidant situations, I think. No offense if you're listening, but there was a little bit of avoidance for one reason or another, which is why it didn't work out, but not because they weren't amazing men who were really good to me and very, very kind, and it just, all our interactions were really good. And so it just really showed me that I was in a new place and had a lot of healing, because my picker changed, right? I started picking some really, really good men in my life, which was an awesome experience. I had a few heartbreaks. It hurt, but all three of them were heartbreaks, but all three of them I smile when I think about, which is why I'm smiling right now. Just great men, that I'm really grateful to have known and experienced. And so that brings me to 2024, where he started gaining custody. And this is a half an hour long, and I need to get on with my day. So I think I'm going to stop part one here. I know I haven't really got into the custody battle or anything yet, but this is where it really starts. So part one is just the intro to it all. Part two will start with when the really strong alienation started to happen, once he had some visitation of the children. Now, he had always been an alienator. I mean, all coercive controllers, I think that's part of what they do when they have children. They undermine the other parents, they put down the other parents. I already knew the kinds of things he was saying about me, because within the marriage, he had already said things about me in front of the children. He used to swear at me all the time, call me a cunt, call me all kinds of things, throw his middle finger up at me, screaming at me about how I was a liar and a manipulator and all these things, with the children standing right there. So I have no doubt that the alienation started from the very beginning. I actually have a therapy note from I think 2014. It was when Oliver was 2 years old. And I mentioned how he was making me out to look bad to the children. So it was always going on to an extent, but this is when it was like the divorce, the retaliation, the need to continue to control, like, got turned up. And now it wasn't just part of the relationship. Now it's an intentional attack and tactic for a desired outcome on his end. So I'll get into that in part two. I can't tell you when it's going to come out, because I have to have the time and the space and the mental and emotional capacity to talk about it. So it could happen soon. It's not going to be that far out, because now that it's something I've started talking about and I'm going to post, I'm going to make sure that I come back and keep talking about it, and we'll start more after he started getting some visitation. I really appreciate you all listening. This story, again, I know people don't want you to talk about this stuff. It makes people uncomfortable. You don't know whether to believe me or not believe me, or it's a really hard situation to be the one on this end of things and to share and explain. And it's easier for the world for me to be quiet and silent and just move on and pretend like everything's okay. And that's just not who I am. So I really, truly appreciate if you're here listening, and I truly hope that you come back to listen to part 2 and keep hearing this story, because my children deserve to have a voice and their story deserves to be told along with me and my story. So until next time.